Wazee. The Swahili word means the elderly. It is a very respectful term. Traditionally, the Wazee are highly regarded members of society in Tanzania. They play an important role in the family structure. However, the image of aging is changing in African countries, as it is in Germany. The reason being social change and the influence of the HIV and AIDS pandemic. The new diversity of the image of aging is something the United Evangelical Mission wanted to look into. At the end of 2010, the United Evangelical Mission organized an unusual workshop. In Bukoba, in the northwestern diocese of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Tanzania, German and Tanzanian participants, all pensioners, met near Lake Victoria and exchanged thoughts on aging in their respective countries. They realized that this is an important topic, not just in Germany, with its aging society. The workshop, which took place in the context of the Program for International Diaconia, was the first UEM event in which the topic of aging in her member churches in Germany and Africa was discussed. For 1 week, the German and Tanzanian participants, aged 60 to 80 years, discussed the situation of elderly people in their respective context. Social, family, and theological aspects were in the center of the discussions, as well as personal experiences.
For me, it was very interesting and enriching to come together with different age groups in the aging group, both from Germany and Tanzania, two cultures meeting. And it was even more interesting to learn that there are many similarities in the situation of the aging in Germany and Tanzania.
Together, the German and Tanzanian participants set off to get an idea of the situation of the elderly in the northwestern part of Tanzania. They experienced the Wazee in very different economic and family situations. They saw a diverse image of the elderly people in this rural area near Lake Victoria. Part of the program was to visit families in the villages. The majority of the elderly live within the framework of the family. Several generations live together. The task of the middle generation is to provide for the family and to care for the children and the elderly. The traditional task of the elderly is to pass on their knowledge and their experience to the younger generation. Although the main responsibility to provide for the family lies with the middle generation, the elderly continue to work in the fields and in the house to their best abilities. However, the traditional family patterns are slowly changing. More and more young people move away to faraway cities in order to find work there. The grandchildren go to school, often attending boarding schools which are located far away from the villages. Adding to that, many middle-aged people in the northwest of Tanzania have died of AIDS and other diseases. Therefore, it often happens that elderly people are the only ones left in the villages. Many people working in the cities do not earn enough money to support their elderly parents in the villages. In this case, the elderly must provide for themselves, even with their physical strengths waning. The danger of isolation and poverty is great. 1/3 of the senior citizens in Tanzania live below the poverty line.
Ich habe beobachtet bei unseren Besuchen in den Dörfern, dass viele alte Menschen, obwohl sie einen harten Alltag haben, doch ein sehr schönes Gesicht zeigen. Obwohl es faltig ist, aber sie strahlen viel aus an Hoffnung, an Zuversicht, an Gelassenheit und an Reife.
Still, the Wazee are an important pillar of society. In the African tradition, old people are treated with respect and have an honorable status. The image of the elderly is associated with experience and wisdom. The elderly are a point of reference for the younger generation and a rich source of knowledge. The elderly are always consulted when it comes to important issues. Nowadays, it is still this way in most cases. However, it cannot be denied that the teachings and values that the elderly stand for are less binding for the younger generation. Young people, most of whom have received a formal education, have little regard for the knowledge of the elderly. Through television, radio, internet, and mobile phones, information can be accessed more and more quickly. This creates a chasm between the Wazee and their children and grandchildren. In Tanzania, very few people receive a state pension, so that most elderly people have to rely on personal provisions. The old age provision is secured through an own house, with a garden and land, as well as small businesses, such as a small shop. If the children have a job that pays well, they usually do not live in their home villages, but support their parents financially and are there in moments of need. Some Wazee have acquired a modest prosperity. For example, Wilson Luga Kingila, a pensioned pastor and former assistant to the Bishop of the Northwestern Diocese. When visited by Helmut Scholten, a deacon and former head of an old age home in Bielefeld, he shows him his house and cattle.
Die Besuche in den 3 Häusern älterer Menschen, die ich machen konnte, zeigten mir, dass die wirtschaftliche Situation der Menschen und auch ihre Lebensqualität abhängig sind von 3 Dingen. Einmal von der gesundheitlichen Situation, die es ihnen ermöglicht, ihre Felder selbstständig zu bewirtschaften. Zweitens von den Kindern, inwieweit sie bereit und auch in der Lage sind, die Eltern finanziell und auch tatkräftig zu unterstützen. Und drittens dem Gemeinwesen, das für sie alle eine tragende Rolle spielt.
However, a majority of the elderly, especially in rural areas, are small-scale farmers. All their lives they have worked in the fields, the shamba, and have never left the village they were born in. They receive no pension, so they continue working on their shambas, planting bananas, cassava and corn for their own use. If there are no younger people around, the elderly have to rely on themselves for their livelihood. With old age, the chance of illness increases, and physical strength diminishes. As a result of this, the danger of becoming poor goes up. Unlike the situation in Germany, there is hardly any social security for the elderly that is established by the Tanzanian state. The official statutory retirement age is 60. However, less than 5% of pensioners actually receive a pension because they never paid into a pension fund. A basic pension, paid for by the government, could be a solution. In the northwest of Tanzania, a project called Wazee, for the elderly, has introduced such a basic pension on a local level with the help of donations. Elderly people, especially women who care for their grandchildren, receive a monthly cash pension of about €8. A study commissioned by the Tanzanian government showed remarkable results. A monthly pension of less than €10 would reduce the poverty rate amongst the elderly by half. The churches in Tanzania play an important role in society as advocates for such a basic pension. As in Germany, elderly people in Tanzania suffer from many health problems. The rate of typical old age diseases such as diabetes and high blood pressure are increasing steadily. Healthcare in Tanzania, which is insufficient at any case, is not prepared for the needs of elderly people. In rural health centers, there is a lack of medical equipment and medicine. There is hardly any chance of adequate treatment for illnesses such as cancer, stroke, or heart attacks. Therefore, very few people in Tanzania reach a high age. Also, reading glasses, hearing and walking aids, and so on, are hard to come by. Theoretically, senior citizens in Tanzania are legally entitled to treatment free of charge in state-run medical facilities. There are, however, many obstacles to obtain this kind of medical treatment, and the system hardly works in reality. Evangelina Kamazima, one of the workshop participants, is over 60 years old and has therefore reached the age of retirement. She is the head of the Ntoma orphanage. Many people continue to work in their job even after reaching the age of retirement. The state pensions are very low, and a regular income is helpful. At the same time, the pensioners often take on important roles in their churches. The churches are suffering from a huge lack of skilled professionals and leaders. This leads to many well-educated pensioners continuing to provide their services and experience for the church. The elderly are particularly affected by the HIV and AIDS pandemic. The majority of AIDS patients in Tanzania are cared for by old people. Many elderly have to watch as their children weaken and die in their prime. In addition to that, they are at a high risk of becoming infected themselves. When their children have died, it becomes the responsibility of the grandparents to raise and care for the grandchildren. For example, this family. One generation is gone. Both parents died because of AIDS. Now the grandparents have to care for their grandchildren by themselves. Clothing, school books and school uniforms, and of course food. These old people, traditionally being cared for, suddenly are confronted again with the role of breadwinner. More than 1 million children in Tanzania have become orphans because of AIDS. Most of these children are raised by their grandparents, especially their grandmothers. Huyawa, which means Help for Children, is an organization supported by the United Evangelical Mission. They support people who take care of AIDS orphans. Affected families receive financial support for the education of the children. They also receive help in the form of clothing, food and legal assistance.
Ich bin sehr beeindruckt während dieser Reise von der Begegnung mit Menschen im gleichen Alter, wie ich es bin. Und ich bin beeindruckt von den offenen Häusern, wo Menschen hineingehen und herauskommen. Also eine gute Verbindung zu Nachbarn und Familien. Das hat mich sehr erfreut.
In Tanzania, life is firmly embedded in the community. Next to the family, the neighborhood and the village community play an important role. The village community stands together, be it in preparation for a wedding or other feasts, and also funerals. It can also offer support to someone in need. However, the village community cannot fully replace the support of the family. This is where the church feels a call. The congregations see it as their task to care for the elderly and widows and to fight poverty and isolation. Here also, we can see parallels to the situation in Germany. For pastors, evangelists and church elders to visit the sick and the old is an important part of the church's ministry. For many old people, this care from the congregation is the main source of comfort and encouragement. Due to the lack of personnel, these house visits cannot always take place. Some of the Wazee complain that they feel abandoned by the church. It is important not to forget the elderly. This is an appeal to churches both in Tanzania and in Germany. Aging in Tanzania has many faces. At the end of the workshop, the participants draw a differentiated conclusion.
The workshop has brought us to a certain point where we have discovered some, I think 2 points on my side. That the aging is a very, very important
point to be discussed in all the societies. This time we have discovered during our trips in the villages and discussing, we've discovered the joys of aging and the sorrows of aging. And I think this is important seminar or workshop has discovered some other things which were not discovered before. We have found people who have no contact with the society, people who are just taking care of children, the orphans, and the old age people who have no support of any kind.
Meine Beobachtung ist, dass es für die tansanische Gesellschaft und ich denke auch für uns in der deutschen Gesellschaft nochmal wichtig ist, die Herausforderungen zu sehen, die die moderne Entwicklung mit sich bringt, im Blick auf traditionelle und auch ethische Werte. Und zu gucken, wie neue Werte festgesetzt und dann auch gelebt werden können.
The images of aging in Tanzania, in Germany and all over the world are diverse and multifaceted. In order for society and church to be able to react appropriately to the challenges of a changing and aging society, it is highly important to acknowledge this diversity. It is a vital task of the Church to promote a society which allows people to age with dignity. The needs of old people must be taken seriously, through activities in the congregation and by standing up for an improvement of social security, not just in Tanzania. In the northwestern diocese, there is a positive example of this. Once a year, they celebrate the Siku ya Wazee, meaning the Day of the Elderly. On this Sunday, the congregations honor the remarkable role of the Wazee through dances, singing, and eating together. The United Evangelical Mission has recognized the importance of the topic of aging in all their member churches in Germany, Asia, and Africa. The exchange and mutual support is highly profitable and shall be intensified by the United Evangelical Mission in future.